Imagine a vault so deep underground that no light has touched its walls for centuries. Hidden behind heavy iron doors are ancient scrolls and forgotten books. The intention was for these relics to stay buried forever. But something has changed. In the heart of Russia, a discovery has surfaced, one that could rewrite everything ever known about Jesus Christ. For centuries, the world has followed a single image, a single face, a single idea of the Son of God. That image has stood in cathedrals, appeared in paintings, and filled the pages of sacred texts. But deep inside these Russian vaults, hidden among the relics of the past, lies a different story, one that contradicts everything. No ancient record has been examined more than the Shroud of Turin, a relic worshipped, analyzed, and debated by scholars, believers, and skeptics alike. A cloth imprinted with the image of a crucified man has long been considered the physical evidence of Jesus Christ's existence. But the deeper the analysis goes, the more unsettling the discoveries become. Modern forensic technology, including high-resolution 3D imaging and artificial intelligence reconstruction, has exposed something shocking. The face on the shroud does not match the earliest descriptions of Jesus. It is not the face of the man who walked through the streets of Jerusalem, nor the figure that early disciples recorded. The features differ, the structure is wrong, and the presence of unnatural markings suggests a mystery even greater than faith itself. During the Soviet era, Russian scholars uncovered religious artifacts hidden away in abandoned monasteries and secret underground chambers. They found lost manuscripts, early church records, and unaltered texts written long before modern Christianity took its final form. These documents paint a different image of Jesus, one that does not resemble the face seen in churches today. A meticulous analysis of these hidden records describes a man whose appearance strayed far from the European depictions created centuries later. The texts portray a formidable, commanding figure, possessing a distinct presence that evoked both fear and admiration. Far removed from the soft, delicate image known to modern Christianity, the real Jesus may have stood taller, his features sharper, his presence unmistakable. In a secretive Russian laboratory, forensic teams fed thousands of ancient texts, historical references, and the shroud's mysterious imprint into AI-driven software designed to reconstruct the past. The results sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The image that emerged challenged everything. The Vatican, for centuries, has maintained one of the most heavily guarded archives on the planet. Behind closed doors, beneath the towering cathedrals, sit documents locked away from the public eye. These texts, some older than any modern Bible, hold descriptions, letters, and records that suggest the figure of Jesus was altered over time, molded to fit a vision crafted for power, control, and influence. One of the most shocking finds in Russia's vaults was not just a manuscript or a rewritten history, it was something alive. Scientists extracted biological remnants from the shroud, comparing them to known relics of the past. Under intense examination, a discovery was made that defied modern science. Blood cells, still active, preserved beyond what should be possible. This should not exist. The preservation of living elements after 2,000 years stands as an anomaly beyond all logic. Only the bodies of saints, rumored to have never decayed, have exhibited a comparable phenomenon in history. But this was different. This was proof of something either divine or engineered beyond human understanding. In 1898, an Italian photographer named Secondo Pia took the first ever photographs of the Shroud of Turin. When he developed the negatives, he saw something no one had expected. The image of a man more vivid and defined than what the naked eye could perceive. This moment marked the beginning of one of the greatest scientific mysteries in human history. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. More than a century later, in 2018, the Russian Institute of Forensic Sciences conducted an AI-assisted digital reconstruction of the image imprinted on the shroud. The results contradicted everything people had believed. The reconstructed face didn't match the traditional Jesus of Renaissance paintings. The proportions were different, the structure unfamiliar. The subject in the shroud appeared to be a different man altogether. For over 120 years, scientists have been trying to uncover the origins of this artifact. Some claim it's the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, while others argue it's a medieval forgery. But as technology advances, so does the evidence, and what's emerging now is far more disturbing than either side anticipated. In 1978, the Shroud of Turin research project, STURP, gathered leading scientists from NASA, Los Alamos National Laboratory, and top universities to study the relic. The image was not painted nor created by any known artistic method. Instead, the markings appeared to be scorched into the linen by a sudden, intense burst of energy. In 2011, a team at Italy's National Agency for New Technologies, ENEA, conducted a breakthrough experiment using ultraviolet lasers. A single burst of 40 nanosecond radiation was able to reproduce the depth and coloration of the shroud's image. This proved one thing: the image was created by an energy source that did not exist in ancient times. In 2020, Russian researchers at the Federal Institute of Physics attempted to recreate the effect using modern plasma physics. It would require 14,000 simultaneous lasers firing at once to generate the same imprint on fabric. No medieval artist could have accomplished this. The technology to create such an imprint didn't even exist until after World War II. This discovery set off a chain reaction. If human hands did not create the image, it implies that an extraordinary event took place in that tomb 2,000 years ago. Some believe this is evidence of the moment of resurrection, a burst of energy so powerful that it seared the image onto the cloth. The Vatican remains silent. Religious institutions hesitate to acknowledge the findings. But behind closed doors, theological experts are beginning to question whether the greatest relic in Christian history has been misunderstood, or worse, deliberately misrepresented. In 1988, a radiocarbon dating test conducted by 3 laboratories, Oxford, Zurich and Arizona, concluded that the shroud originated between 1260 and 1390 AD, placing it in the medieval period far too late to be the burial cloth of Jesus. But in 2019, new research conducted by the University of Padua in Italy challenged this claim. Scientists found that the previous carbon dating test had been flawed, contaminated by fibers from medieval repairs. Their revised estimate placed the shroud's origins closer to 33 AD, aligning with the time of Jesus' crucifixion. In 2004, forensic pathologists identified traces of AB-type blood on the cloth, consistent with blood samples found on other religious relics. The most shocking discovery came in 2017 when genetic analysis revealed traces of DNA from multiple ethnic groups, including ancient Jewish populations from the Middle East. Russia has access to forensic data the rest of the world has never seen. Their latest findings indicate that the blood on the shroud contains unique properties, evidence of extreme trauma, high bilirubin levels, and an abnormal preservation of red blood cells. Some claim this is evidence of divine resurrection. The ancient world was filled with prophecies, warnings etched into sacred texts, whispered by seers and recorded by those who foresaw the turning of time. Many dismissed them as metaphors, exaggerations, or the visions of dreamers. But as the years passed, events unfolded that mirrored those ancient predictions with unsettling precision. For centuries, religious scholars have spoken of a coming revelation, a moment when the truth long buried beneath doctrine and manipulation would rise. The world would awaken and people would realize that what they believed was carefully curated, altered, to serve a purpose that had little to do with faith. The revelations from Russia's archives are not isolated discoveries. They fit within a larger picture, one that aligns disturbingly well with biblical prophecies and modern global events. The book of Revelation, written nearly, foretells a time when hidden truths would come to light and the world would enter an era of undeniable transformation. In ancient scriptures, the Euphrates River is named as a boundary between civilizations, a dividing line between great empires. But its significance extends beyond geography. It is central to apocalyptic prophecy. The Bible states that in the final days, this mighty river would dry up, clearing the way for the great battle that would shake the world. For thousands of years, the Euphrates remained full, its waters feeding nations. Then, in recent years, something unthinkable happened. The river began to disappear. Satellite imagery from 2021 and 2022 shows vast portions of the riverbed exposed, cracked, and barren. Entire regions that once relied on its waters are now crumbling. Archaeologists, once unable to access certain areas due to flooding, are now uncovering structures, tunnels, and ruins hidden beneath the surface for millennia. Revelation 16:12 describes this event clearly. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. As the river withers, political tensions in the Middle East erupt with new intensity. Nations are on the brink of war, alliances are shifting, and military movements are aligning exactly as foretold. The pieces are moving into place. In Matthew 24:24, it is written that before the end, false prophets and deceivers would emerge, misleading even the most faithful. They would perform signs, command influence, and twist history to fit their own agenda. In the modern world, this deception takes many forms. The manipulation of historical records, the suppression of key discoveries, and the intentional distortion of religious texts serve a greater purpose: control. Revelation 6 speaks of wars and rumors of wars, of nations clashing in ways that signal the unraveling of an era. In the past decade alone, conflicts have escalated at an alarming rate. The tension between global superpowers, the instability in the Middle East, and the rising unease among the world's most influential leaders paint a picture that matches the prophetic descriptions with chilling accuracy. In October 2023, the war between Israel and Hamas ignited one of the most volatile conflicts in modern history. Just months later, 2024 saw escalations in Eastern Europe, new power struggles in Asia, and the looming threat of technological warfare unlike anything witnessed before. Every powerful institution, from governments to religious organizations, operates with a central goal: control. Control over knowledge, over belief, and most importantly, over people. For nearly 2 millennia, the dominant story of Jesus Christ has been one of a peaceful teacher, a humble shepherd, a man who was betrayed, crucified, and then resurrected. Scripture, artwork, and doctrine have reinforced this image, but it is not the whole story. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. The original accounts of Jesus, written before the modern Bible was compiled, paint a vastly different picture. Early Gospels, some of which were buried and hidden for centuries, describe a Jesus unlike the one the world knows today. The Gospel of Thomas, unearthed in 1945 in the deserts of Egypt, contains sayings attributed to Jesus that differ from those in the traditional New Testament. The Gospel of Judas, another lost text, presents a version of events where Judas Iscariot was not a traitor, but an instrument in a divine plan. The answer lies in who had control over knowledge. During the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, Emperor Constantine and church leaders assembled to define the official version of Christianity. They determined which scriptures were acceptable and which were to be destroyed. Any record that did not align with the image they wanted to create was buried, burned, or locked away in secret vaults. The truth about Jesus' appearance, his teachings, and his true mission was edited, rewritten, and altered to align with political and religious agendas. What remains today is a selective version of events, carefully designed to maintain order and obedience. In a twist that no one saw coming, It is not Western scholars or religious authorities who have unearthed the most groundbreaking revelations. It is Russian researchers working within highly restricted archives that date back to the Byzantine and Soviet eras. During the fall of Constantinople in 1453, thousands of religious manuscripts were either destroyed or stolen. Some were taken by Ottoman rulers, but others disappeared entirely. Decades later, secret networks transported some of these priceless records into Eastern Orthodox monasteries, where they were hidden from the influence of Rome and Western Christianity. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the Soviet Union, despite its anti-religious stance, seized control of these hidden artifacts. They were placed in underground storage where only select historians and intelligence officers had access to them. Now, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, some of these archives have begun to resurface, revealing first-hand accounts, early gospel fragments, and forensic studies that challenge everything we thought we knew about Jesus. Documents from these Russian archives describe a Jesus who was feared by the ruling elite, a figure of immense power, and a presence so intense that even his enemies were said to tremble before him. For centuries, people around the world have imagined Jesus in different ways. Each culture has shaped his appearance to reflect their own people, traditions, and beliefs. Various portrayals of Jesus, rather than a single universal image, demonstrate how faith adapts to diverse societies. Whether in Asia, Africa, the Americas, or the Middle East, these representations help people connect with Jesus in a way that feels familiar and personal. In China, when Jesuit missionaries arrived in the 16th century, they realized that European images of Jesus were unfamiliar to the local population. To make their teachings more relatable, they adapted his appearance, giving him Asian features, softer facial expressions, and traditional Chinese robes. This allowed Chinese people to see Jesus as someone who could belong to their own culture. In the 17th century, Japan banned Christianity, forcing believers to practice their faith in secret. During this time, hidden Christians, Kakure Kirishitan, disguised images of Jesus and Mary by giving them Buddhist characteristics. By imitating local deities, their religious icons could evade persecution. The combination of Christian and Buddhist styles resulted in unique, delicate artwork that remains a symbol of faith under oppression. India's Christian communities also created their own versions of Jesus. Some images show him dressed like a Hindu guru, wearing long robes and seated in a meditative position. In this manner, Indian culture viewed Jesus as a wise teacher, akin to revered spiritual figures. This representation emphasizes his role as a bringer of divine knowledge rather than just a historical figure. Ethiopia is home to one of the oldest Christian traditions in the world. Ethiopian churches have depicted Jesus with dark skin, large eyes, and stylized features, influenced by Coptic and Byzantine art. These images, painted on church walls and religious manuscripts, give Jesus a distinct Ethiopian identity, showing how Christianity was embraced in Africa long before European missionaries arrived. As Christianity spread across the continent, many African communities reimagined Jesus as a black man, reflecting their own ancestry and cultural heritage. This was particularly important during and after colonial rule, when African Christians sought to reclaim their faith from European influence. By portraying Jesus with African features, they reinforced the idea that Christianity was not a foreign religion, but one that belonged to their people as well. When Christianity arrived in the Americas, indigenous communities adapted Jesus to fit their own traditions. Some tribes depicted him with native features, traditional clothing, and cultural symbols. Instead of European robes, some images show Jesus wearing indigenous garments, representing a connection to the land and ancestral traditions. In Mexico, religious syncretism combined Christianity with Aztec and Mayan beliefs. Some depictions of Jesus incorporate elements of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, who was seen as a divine figure bringing wisdom. This blending of traditions allowed indigenous people to accept Christianity without completely abandoning their old beliefs. Similar representations can be found in other Latin American countries where Jesus is sometimes portrayed alongside native gods or with symbols from local mythology. If you are enjoying this story, click super. Thanks. You are keeping this message alive, spreading awareness and pushing the search for truth forward. Jesus was born in the Middle East, yet for many years, Western art depicted him with European features, light skin and blue eyes. Today, modern representations try to correct this by showing him with darker skin, Middle Eastern facial features, and traditional Jewish clothing. These versions are closer to what Jesus would have actually looked like as a historical figure from first-century Judea. In many Muslim-majority countries, Jesus is highly respected as a prophet known as Isa. However, Islamic tradition discourages the visual representation of religious figures, leading to a rare depiction of Jesus in art. Instead, his teachings and miracles are honored through calligraphy, poetry, and religious texts. Despite these differences, Jesus remains an important figure in Middle Eastern faith and culture. The way Jesus is portrayed in different cultures shows that faith is deeply personal and adaptable. People from every corner of the world have shaped his image to reflect their own identity, history, and beliefs. Rather than one universal appearance, Jesus takes on many forms, proving that his message is not limited to one race, language, or tradition. Throughout history, Jesus has been represented in ways that reflect the cultures and beliefs of different societies. From China, Japan, and India to Ethiopia, Latin America, and the Middle East, his image has been shaped to create familiarity and spiritual connection. Some saw him as a revolutionary figure, others as a divine teacher, and many as a symbol of justice and resistance. Yet, recent discoveries in Russian archives, alongside AI-driven forensic studies, have revealed contradictions between traditional depictions and historical reality. The face known to billions may not be the real Jesus. Evidence suggests that his appearance, teachings, and role have been modified over centuries to fit political and religious agendas. The world stands at a crossroads. Some will cling to tradition, refusing to see beyond familiar stories. Others will seek deeper understanding, embracing the revelations that reshape history. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.